Hey folks, welcome to yet another conversation on Business Redefined, your weekly most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance and economics. We're dialing down the year and we want to have a conversation about hospitality and the state of play in the market. And we're privileged to be at Radisson Arboretum here, and we are sitting down with the GM, General Manager, that is Mr. Shivram. Welcome on set.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. From an outsider looking in, we have the impression that hospitality is having a strong, if I could call it, post-COVID rebound. Looks to us like you've had a bumper year. We're struggling to even get venues to launch investor briefings. How is it looking now from inside?
I think, post-COVID, I think people had this, we call it the revenge travel, where people wanted to just go all out. I think it is now coming back to that level where people are traveling, but not so much like before. Of course, you have a lot of things that happen outside Kenya that can also be a factor for people not traveling. I would say that, yes, business has been good, God's grace, but it's not been as good as probably the last 2 years. One is because the number of competitors have increased. And, with the reduced inflow of business, it's more like, I would say, a daily fight now. There used to be a time when you used to plan for a month, a quarter, but now it's more like a daily plan. You need to sit and plan on a daily basis to see how you're going to be hitting your targets.
Yeah.
But all that said and done, I strongly believe that, with the kind of things happening around in East Africa, focuses on MICE. Leisure is a key business now. We used to call ourselves a corporate hotel. But I think with time, we are more of a bleisure, mix of business and leisure is what we have become. So I think, yes, business is still there. It's just about how you tap in to different markets rather than focusing on one. But yes, as rightly said, yes, Kenya is becoming a hub of travel. So yeah, we just have to play with the situation, change our strategies depending on what the scenario is. So touch wood, I wouldn't complain.
All right. There's something you touched on which is very important, and that is the competitive landscape. From what I see, it looks like in the past we had a very strong, if I could call it, top-tier segment of the market, the Radissons and the likes.
Yep.
Increasingly, we are seeing an equally heavy mid-tier segment of the market.
True.
How is that playing out for you?
See, what used to happen before is when people traveled into Kenya or they want to travel, they look at, TripAdvisors and other sites. You had these top tiers. Now, what's happening is all the top brands are also coming with their mid-level hotels. So when that comes in, the business still remains the same. But, your number of hotel rooms have started increasing. So it's not about, we call it ego selling. It's not about ego selling these days. Yeah? You can be the best brand in the world, but if you don't know how to play around with your rates, then you have a problem. It's better to have a hotel that is 80% full with an ADR that balances out than having a hotel that is only 40% full with a high ADR. So for me, the mid-segment has really brought in a lot of competition with reduced rates. But I think where a brand like a Radisson Blu Arboretum, such as us, would play out better is in terms of the services that we offer and how we make the guest feel special when they stay here. So yeah.
So is it fair to say, given what you've just touched on there, that the game is increasingly shifting for players like yourselves from a margins game to a volumes game?
Absolutely. What used to be revenue driven, when I say that, an ADR, an average rate focused market, now it's more of volume, as you mentioned rightly, because leisure is not a high, I would say it's not a high rated business in terms of but then the volume that you get is quite high.
True.
Right? So what happens is when you have a mix of corporates and a mix of leisure, it keeps your hotel busy, and it balances out your ADR well. So, when you play that card right on when to focus on leisure and when to focus on corporates, it actually brings the revenue that you probably want to.
So it's a mix you must balance.
It is
now.
a mix. It is a mix.
Looking at it regionally, Shiv, would you say that Kenya still has a bargaining chip, if I could call it, from a MICE perspective? And I'm saying that because if you look at Kigali and what's happening there,
Absolutely.
if you go to Addis, it's really coming up.
Big, yeah.
Do we still have that leverage?
In my opinion, Kenya has always been a country that is got a lot of MICE business. I mean, if I have to be saying how we believe that the MICE business in Kenya is big, is an example of our expansion that we are doing. We are coming up with the city's largest conference center. We are adding up more rooms. So yes, the market for MICE has always been there. I think it's more about having the right spaces for that, with the right technology, which is where I think we may be a little behind in terms of where Kigali is, because they are hitting the ball out of the park in every possible way. But I think with a right focus and a right plan towards attracting your MICE events, I think Kenya has all the potentials. So strongly believe that MICE is going to be the future.
Okay. Every other Kenyan you meet in the streets, one of the things which is recurrently talked about is cash flows are tight. We don't seem to have money in our pockets. And I'm curious, for a services and consumer-facing business like yourselves, how are you having to adjust your business within that macroeconomic reality?
With the current situation, yes, we all know that cash flow is tight, whether it's business, whether it's your personal lives. Yeah, we do have that situation. As a business, what we normally do is we follow the economic situation in the country, and we are not very rigid with our menu ratings or pricing, as I just discussed before. So again, it's about understanding what the local market is demanding. Sometimes it's about giving them more of a tailor-made offer, which is, we call it the budget-friendly, pocket-friendly. There is a notion that brands like Radisson, Blue Arboretum, JW, or, the top-tier brands, you can only visit on special occasions.
Yeah.
And I always say this, that no, it's not that way. We as a brand believe that we need to cater to all our local community people. We also have something that we have just recently offered. It's called Love Your Community. And there's something that we do where every week we have tailor-made offers, budget-friendly, to attract a lot of people. So while, yes, I agree that the budgets are tight, but if you still see people still go to restaurants, people still go to malls, shopping happens. So, and that's why you see a lot of offers here and there. So I think it's more about understanding the market, seeing what people are exactly looking for. It's not about how pricey the food is. It's about the quality that you offer. We call it the value for money. And I'm sure when people feel that there is a value for what they're paying, it's about that, the quality, the value, and keeping it at a price point that is not going to alarm people, but saying, okay, you know what, that's a good price to pay for a place like Radisson Blue Arboretum. So yeah, it's again, situations are to be analyzed, and we need to be very focused on how to play around with every situation that comes into your way. So, yeah.
Very important dynamic perspective there for players in the industry. Many stakeholders in the hospitality sector I've spoken to, one of the recurrent challenges they have cited is cost escalation. Whether it is from an input standpoint or whether you are undergoing construction like you are, and this month you're buying steel at this cost, 2 months down the road it has flipped up significantly. How is your experience with that, and how do you ensure that your overheads then remain within range?
See, I think one most important thing that, when you're building a hotel or when you run a hotel, what we fail to look at is, people are so focused on importing from China because it's cheap. That's a notion, right? But then what happens is one thing that over a period of time that I've been in this hotel for 4 years, every import that you do can be good for a pocket for the initial stages. But when it comes to running a hotel and maintaining it over a period of time, you don't find the spare parts here.
Okay.
So then you will have to again do the math and do the importation, and it again has to be in a large number. So what we have started doing over the last few years is every replacement we do, we look at our local community. And we talk about local vendors who can match the product, and the maintenance is much cheaper when you compare to getting all the imported items. So I think it's about, when you say cost escalations and managing the overheads, it's about how you keep the local vendors close by you and not having to go for everything on importation part. And it not only supports us in terms of maintaining the overheads, but what also happens is, when you support the community here in terms of how you give the business within the country, it also helps you back in a lot of way because the negotiation is much easier. They benefit, we benefit out of it. So it's kind of, in fact, with this expansion, I've been very focused with my shareholders saying that, please, let's try and see how we can balance out important things from here. The bulk items that you need can be done there, but those can be bought here. Makes it
Source
easy.
them locally.
Yeah, just let's get them locally, because maintenance down the line is more important. I can have the flashiest thing bought from abroad, but maintaining that, it still needs high AMC costs, replacement cost. You'd rather get something here. Maybe it will be a tad bit expensive, or maybe it will not be as flashy as that, but the maintenance down the line would give you a very beneficial hotel down the line. So, it makes a lot of difference.
And to that point, Shiv, 2 years ago when we had Russia invading Ukraine and supply chains disrupted, a number of players in this sector told me that sourcing of inputs became a huge headache. When where you had 2 months lead time, now you had 6 months, going onwards.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how that might have recalibrated your business, and to this point, how it is reshaping how you think about sourcing.
I think that's a very valid point for a lot of people, shifting their approach, because when you're so dependent on certain set of things that we depend on as a hotel, in terms of guest amenities, let's put it that way. It's outsourced. Some come from South Africa, some come from China, some come from Dubai. So when this happened, we really had to rethink our strategy, because we used to order ahead of time, thinking that 3 months was good enough. And when you start realizing that 3 months became 6 and sometimes even to 9 months, we used to take a hit here because we would not be able to provide the exact brand standard items that we need to. So that's when we started approaching a lot of the local vendors to see how we can replicate what a brand standard would do here. Yeah. And in fact, to be honest, when we started doing that, we even approached our global purchase office and saying, why make us go all the way and get the items when our vendors locally can do the stuff in a similar way. So I think, yes, sometimes what happens outside has also positive impact inside, because if that had not happened, we would have still continued getting things from other places. And yeah, I think now we are more, I would say, self-sufficient, not depending on a lot of vendors out of the country. And we have some very, very good vendors, who has really stepped up to the situation, I would say that, and really given us a lot of, in your language, the overhead cost saving. So, yeah.
And what about the standardization? Because many guys who have gone local in sourcing tell me now standardization of product becomes a huge challenge.
I mean, it totally depends on who you approach. Yeah. We as a hotel, we do our due diligence in terms of, our purchase team does a lot of survey. We try and get samples from different vendors and see how they match it. And we always say that, believe this, that you don't order one at a time. Order for, as a bulk.
Correct.
Because one, it gives you the leverage of better pricing and also keeps it for a longer run with you, so you don't have to run around last minute saying, oh, I'm short of something. But again, standardization totally depends on which vendor you deal with, and you also need to know that the vendor cannot be the first timer who has never done
Delivered
anything like
else.
this. It's about someone who has been into the market, but maybe not as a big, we call it the wholesale selling, but he knows that the quality is important. And Kenya has a lot of them, let's be honest. We have a lot of vendors who can provide you great standards. It's all about us demanding it also. We can't just let them do what they want and then, we bear the brunt. So, it's about getting into the details, understanding. It's a process, but it's fun.
One pet topic anytime I'm in a hospitality conference, conversation, roundtable is just how much has the Airbnb factor disrupted your business line?
I would not say it's actually impacted us big, because it totally depends on what the client exactly wants. See, Airbnb would be more of probably a family that wants to go stay, cook by themselves. And as I say, since business has come back in good times with Kenya, it purely depends on the client. Yeah. And touch wood, I don't think Airbnb has had a bigger impact for us, because one is the niche location that we enjoy. And second, as I always say, I am a strong believer that my team is very good at what it does, and especially in terms of the genuine warmth, which we talk about. Cost-conscious guests, yes, will go to Airbnb, but guests who believe that certain things, for people who
the experience,
time and experience and convenience, all of them are important, I think hotel is where they would go to. I mean, I personally, if I had so much of time at hand where I know I can cook, probably I would look at an Airbnb. But again, the fact that when your wife, who cooks all through the year, you tell her you need to cook on a vacation.
No, she's like, no,
she's
it can't
like,
work.
let's not look at that. Let's go somewhere where, the family enjoys. So yeah, Airbnb, maybe, but not to an extent where it's impacted the business big. No.
There's a market they serve, but not disruptive in that sense.
No, not disruptive for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the policy environment and the operating environment in which you're playing. What are some of the pressure points that you see, and what would you think are recommendations you would make just in terms of making the environment a lot easier and accommodative for business? And I'm seeing you're looking at your watch, so yeah.
No, in terms of hospitality, I believe one thing, that hospitality is about being genuine, and for me, it's not about my title, what I am. If I have to ensure my guests are taken care of, first thing I need to do is I need to take care of my internal guests, which is my team. And that starts with, making sure they're equipped with the right tools, ensuring that the products that they're selling is top-notch with great maintenance, and the knowledge in terms of how they need to sell. So if I talk about keeping the environment good for making sure the business thrives, I think the crux of any business is how you take care of the team. The team needs to feel that the leadership team, which starts from me to all my head of departments, they're there for them. It's about how calm you handle a situation. I always compare hotels with house. And I tell my team that, we have handled situations at home not by jumping around, but by thinking through and working together. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I strongly believe, that when you communicate a problem, it's not about just the leadership team that has to think. Sometimes the team members can come up with some wonderful ideas where you just need to build up on. So in my point of view, it is about sharing a vision with the team, communicating to them in a way where they understand where we are, what we need to do, and letting them know, giving them the trust and the confidence that we are here to support you. Because for me, I always believe this, a leader is only as good as his team. Yeah. And if the team is taken care of, the guests are going to be happy. And if these two elements are taken care of, your shareholders, the brand, people sitting at the top, they will be happy eventually with the results that follow. So I think it's very, very important that you have a strong team, a team that feels important, empowered, and who carry a same vision as what we want to achieve. And I always tell this to the team that when you walk out of this hotel with your head high and you attend an interview anywhere outside, people say you're from Radisson Blue and you're getting absorbed. That's a pride for me. So, yeah.
All right. I'm conscious that you have about 7 minutes to your next meeting, so let's close here. What is your outlook for 2026? What are some of the key trends you expect to shape hospitality?
2026 is, again, as I believe, is going to be similar to what we had experienced in 2025. Again, the number of rooms that are coming in are huge. The only thing that I would tell the team, which I always say, is let's focus on being genuine in what we do. Make them special. Any guest who walks in should feel that they had something memorable to take home. And let's not take things for granted, because they are spoiled for choice and we only have them. So if we need to keep them, we need to retain them. I think we just need to be very genuine in our hospitality. Don't think of just revenues. Revenue will come if you take care of your guests. So let's make them feel special and change your strategy with evolving time. Let's not stick to one strategy and assume it's going to fit throughout the year. Disruptions will come. Political turmoils may come. There may be things happening outside the world. But how we work together with ideas, change your plans with time, and I think 2026 is going to be fun. As fun as what 2025 was. So, absolutely.
All right, the man is Shiv, the GM here at Radisson, and we have been having a conversation on hospitality, looking back to 2025, the key trends, right in terms of the competitive landscape, a supply chain, some of the dynamics you're seeing from the consumer perspective, and outlook 2026. And quite a bullish outlook there. He says, remember, the capacity in the sector is increasing, so competitiveness will definitely be deepening. Keep it Business Redefined for all the latest as and when it happens.